Hey everybody, welcome back. In this video, we are going to go over the general concept of retopology. Now, in actual retopology, you would take very geometrically complicated models, like maybe smoothing this out once or twice. This is now a very geometrically complicated model. At this point, I would have to go through the process of creating new primitives and just making a new version of this model from scratch with the exact same features, but with less faces, with less geometry. Obviously, I'm not going to have you do that, but what I am going to have you do is go over some simple techniques on how you can take a geometrically complicated model and reduce the face count down to something that you can actually work with, to something that you can actually, properly UV unwrap and rig and paint skin weights for and pose and animate if you want to, or at the very least, just to make something that has less faces so that your machines don't slow down and potentially crash just by having so many polygons on screen at once. I'm going to go ahead and reopen this teddy bear file provided to me by Professor Boyle. I'm going to go ahead and turn on the wireframe shaded here. Why not? And I'm also going to go ahead and go to display, heads up display, and poly count, just so we can see. In reality, if you were to put this in like a game engine or something, this wouldn't be that big of a deal, having this many faces. But for our purposes, though, we're going to act like it is. Like this is just too many faces for this bear, and in reality, it kind of is too many faces for this bear. Considering how simple the shape of the bear really is, we can get away with reducing the poly count by a lot and still retaining all of the core features of this basic bear model. There are two ways of doing this, both valid, but one gives you much better results than the other. I'm actually going to go ahead and make duplicates. Okay, this is the one we're not going to touch. This is the one we're going to do the automatic way. So for this one, if you wanted to very quickly reduce the poly count of something, improve the topology of this model here very quickly, you would just have to go into the modeling menu set, go to mesh, and then go to reduce. Specifically the settings for reduce, you want to make sure you have everything at its base, which is reduction method percentage 50%, preserving quads, yes. Everything can stay as it is, and then you just say reduce. And there you go. That's it. That reduces the topology of the model safely without sacrificing that much on the shaping of the geometry of it, on all of its general features. As you can see, though, it's a little bit rough around the edges. You can see visibly seams now as a result of this. This is one way to reduce the poly count on something, but it's not the best way. If you intend on using this in a game engine and it's something that's going to be seen from far away, then obviously this doesn't really matter. But if you're working at something like Maya exclusively, then obviously you're going to be able to see pretty quickly that this was done by a machine and not by hand, which means we're now going to jump over to this bear, and we are going to reduce its poly count by hand and maintain its topology by hand rather than letting Maya do it for us. Now, I'm not going to do this with some new method that we haven't covered in class yet. This is literally just going to be going to edge selection mode. This is going to be selecting edge loops by double-clicking. And then it's just going to be going up to edit mesh, delete edge and vertex. This is the manual way on how you can reduce a high poly count and work on the topology of your geometry as well. Just a very simple process. I would recommend you select every other edge to begin with. This is selecting a lot of stuff. So let's see what this is going to look like. Delete edge. Shape is still maintained. That's good. And just go through the process, Selecting every other edge is probably a good idea. You want to make sure if you accidentally create any n-gons, we don't have any n-gons here, but if we accidentally created any n-gons, then you're going to need to use the multi-cut tool to fix those up. shape is still maintained. Good. Meanwhile, if we take something out like this out, then you will see the shape is no longer really that well maintained. So better to keep that one there. We have a try there, which we may want to go ahead and get rid of. Let's go ahead and see if this is going to complicate things too much. We'll keep it as is. Remember, some tries are okay. You mostly want four-sided faces. You want to be careful of removing important center-ish edges like this, because now you start to lose a lot of information doing that. Just want to tackle what you think are unnecessary edges that don't do much of anything for anyone, and get rid of those. We'll pause there for this exercise, for this brief demo. And let's compare what we've done so far. In this one, all we did was use the mesh reduce capability. And this reduced our mesh that was initially, we select here, initially 4,032 faces. This one reduced it down to half its size of 1,986 faces. That's great. Meanwhile, our manual version here, not only does it have less faces, so it's better, so it has better topology. It only has 1,364 faces. Not only does it have less faces, it retains more detail compared to the version that was automatically done with Maya. So it is absolutely worth your time to manually retopologize. And again, all we've been doing is just selecting edges and deleting them. If you wanted to add edges back in, then you would just use your multi-cut tool and add in some edges back in if you wanted to. I'm not going to. I'm actually going to go ahead and remove some more. We have reduced this 4,032 face poly, this 4,032 face mesh here, into a mesh of just 1,084 faces. And not only is it better than the automatic method, but we can create we can lower it down to a lot less faces. So your final exercise is going to be to take a model that I give you. It's probably going to be this teddy bear as well, and you are going to reduce its count to something really, really low while retaining as much of the shape information as possible. It's a very important skill to start getting used to in 3D modeling. It's something that has a lot more nuance to it the more advanced you get and the higher poly models you deal with. Again, if you have a really high poly model, you're probably going to want to have that really high poly model as reference and then recreate a lower poly model from scratch using that one, using the high poly model as a sort of mold that you work against. But in this case, we're going through the basic process of just taking a relatively high poly model and ourselves converting it into something smaller and more manageable and easier to work with, as we've just done. So that's it. Thank you very much for watching. There will be some other material this week on other stuff that you can do with the Maya program, some other stuff that we're not going to have time to cover, namely some more nuanced stuff on sculpting and the Arnold renderer and particle effects and things like that. But in terms of all the things that I have to show you this semester, this is the last thing. So thank you very much for watching. I hope you enjoyed. Bye-bye.